We wait. That's what we do. For 60 minutes, the driver battle out on the track. But we know our time is coming. For 25 seconds, the race is in our hands. There can be no mistakes. They cost time. We prepare, we focus, we test, and sometimes we make the difference.
After Clivio Piccioni and Steph Dusseldorp took victory at the opening round in Abu Dhabi, the 2011 FIA GT1 World Championship travelled to Zolder in Belgium, where Marc Basseng and Marcus Winkelhock dominated a dramatic weekend, taking victory in the championship race. Portimao was next, where Nissan began to show their strength. Lucas Luhr and Michael Crum took the victory, whilst bad luck blighted their teammates Peter Dumbreck and Richard Westbrook, picking up a puncture. There was plenty of action at the Sachsenring in Germany, where both Swiss racing cars were eliminated on the opening lap. There were battles throughout the field, but up at the front, Marc Basseng's trip into the gravel allowed Christian Hohenadel and Andrea Piccini to take the win, with Aston Martin becoming the first brand to win for a second time in 2011. GT1 became the first category to use the brand new Silverstone wing for the 5th round of the championship, the arena circuit being the venue for the now infamous clash between Richard Westbrook and Stefan Mucker. After a frantic battle for the lead, Luhr and Crum became the first double winners of the season. In Navarra, it was a championship race win for Nicky Pastorelli and Dominic Schwager under the Spanish sun. Aston Martin were hoping for good things in the south of France as the GT1 World Championship made its way to the Paul Ricard high-tech test track. But unfortunately, after a good start, the Hexis machines almost came together, with Piccioni spinning. Westbrook and Dumbreck retired with a puncture, allowing Luhr and Crum to take control of the championship with their 3rd win of the season. FIA GT1 then made its first visit to China at the Ordos International Circuit. A packed crowd arrived in the Kangbashi district to see a commanding victory for the Mark VDS Ford GT of Fred Makovicky and Maxime Martin. A week later, the cars were in Beijing for a street demonstration outside the 2008 Olympic Park. The weather took a turn for the worse, and in the only wet race of 2011, Darren Turner and Thomas Enger came through to take victory. At San Luis in Argentina, Crum and Luhr wrapped up the title in the qualifying race, so it didn't matter that they were eliminated in this massive start line shunt. Exim Bank Team China won the race, but Hexis Racing did enough to clinch the team's title.
I just want to say one word. We are the best team in the world this year.
To be champions now is wonderful. For me and Michael, winning with the number 23 is just great.
The Aston Martin brand are represented this season by Valmont Team Russia. World Series by Renault race winner Andreas Zuber will pilot the number 6 car alongside 3-time Russian touring car champion Alexei Vasilyev. After a strong 2011 in a Mark VDS Racing Ford in FIA GT1, Maxime Martin returns this year in the 2nd Aston, partnered by Russian single-seater racer Sergei Afanasyev.
It's fantastic to be here. I represent Russia and I represent my sponsors and I represent Aston Martin. I'm really glad to be in a World Championship. It's going to be fun and we'll do our best to fight for the title.
The Belgian Audi club Team WRT are running a pair of R8s in 2012. The team will be running the updated LMS Ultra model with a strong driver lineup. Audi regulars Oliver Jarvis and Frank Stippler will drive the number 33, whilst Formula 3 racer Laurens Vanthoor will be joined in the 32 car by massively experienced GT racer Stéphane Ortelli.
For us to be here in the World Championship is really, really important. I think we have a really strong R8 car and we've been winning races last year, but not at this level. I think we are strong and we're going to fight to the maximum for sure.
The 2010 FIA GT1 World Champions Vita for One racing team returned to the series this year with the BMW Z4. Matthias Lauda, son of 3-time Formula 1 World Champion Nicky, will pilot the 17 machine alongside Nicky Meyer-Melnhof. After a massively impressive GT1 debut at the final round of last season, Jelmer Berman is back, racing the 18 car alongside team boss and 2010 Drivers' Champion Michael Bartels.
It's a nice feeling with the German brand BMW. It's also for me coming back home, because when I started my career I was already for 1 year BMW factory driver, and now running the BMW Z4 in the World Championship is something with a very special feeling.
The prestigious Ferrari brand is back in the top tier of GT racing, being run by AF Corsa. GT3 champion Francesco Castellacci continues his association with the team, driving the number 4 458 alongside Enzo Ide. Ex-A1GP racer Felipe Salaquada will be in the number 3 car, with former FIA GT2 champion Tony Verlander alongside him.
I think it's a good car, good to be in this championship. I've seen some of our opponents on action in these days, so I think it's going to be a tight and exciting championship.
Andy Soucek and Emanuele Moncini will be running in the number 11 Sunred Ford GT, as the American marque continues its association with GT1. 2004 Italian F3 champion Matteo Cressoni will be in the second car, having raced in various GT championships for the past 6 years. He will be joined by another Italian F3 champion, this time from 2002. Serbian Milos Pavlovic will be alongside him, making his third FIA GT1 appearance this weekend in Nogaro.
It's great to be here. It's great to be part of this championship and fourth, so we're gonna fight hard and try to be up front.
Lamborghini will be run by the experienced Reiter engineering squad in 2012. Peter Cox has been racing for the brand since 2004, and his huge experience will be complemented by Porsche Carrera Cup Asia champion and current World Touring Car driver Daryl O'Young. 2010 GT1 runner-up Thomas Enger will move from the Aston Martin to the Lamborghini this year, and will be joined in the 24 car by German Prince Albert von Thurn and Taxis.
It feels fantastic. It's very exciting to be here in the World Championship competing with such a strong grid. We are all very excited, and we hope that we can compete for the top places.
McLaren makes its debut in international GT racing this season, with reigning teams champions Hexis running 2 cars. Alvaro Parente played a large role in the development of the machine as McLaren test driver, and he'll be joined by French youngster Grégoire de Moustier. In the number 1 car is Steph Dusseldorp, retained from Hexis' campaign last year, and 2010 Porsche Carrera Cup champion Fred Makovicky.
We are world champion in 2011, and this is a new goal with McLaren to do the same as the last year with the Aston Martin, and we hope so to continue to be world champion again 1 year and 1 year and 1 year.
Alinkel.com Munich Motorsports continue in FIA GT1, running a pair of Mercedes SLSs. The driver lineup is largely unchanged, with Mercedes driver Thomas Jaeger the only newcomer to the team, partnering Nicky Pastorelli in the number 37 car. Ex-Formula 1 driver Markus Winkelhock is in the 38 machine, alongside team boss and experienced GT racer Marc Basseng.
It's nice to be back here in GT1 World Championship with the Mercedes SLS. A great car, really reliable, and I think we have a good chance to finish in the top 5 this weekend.
Exim Bank Team China will represent Porsche in this year's World Championship. After competing in the Asian Porsche Carrera Cup last season, Ren Wei will be alongside ex-FIA Formula 2 racer Benjamin Lariche in the number 8 car. V8 supercar driver Matt Halliday will be in the 9 machine, alongside 2011 FIA GT3 runner-up Mike Parisi.
I am very happy, and it's a great pleasure for me to be here in Nogaro. It's my home circuit, so I am very motivated and very happy to be here in the World GT1 Championship. It's a big chance for me, and I hope that we are going to be to do a good job with Matt Halliday.
The 2012 FIA GT1 World Championship gets underway here at Nagaro in France this weekend. We're about to bring you the qualifying session, which will decide the grid for tomorrow's qualifying race. My name is Jack Nichols. Alongside me in the commentary box is John Watson. We've got Hayley Coxon down in the pit lane, and it's a slightly overcast day, as you can see here in Nagaro, for the opening round of this 2012 championship. We've got another 9 rounds to come after this, taking in 9 different countries throughout the season, and it's going to be a very, very interesting qualifying session indeed. A beautiful field of cars, 9 different brands. John, it's going to be a cracking season.
Well, it's a brave new world. We've got a new format. We've got now 9 new teams, 2 by 2 by 2. Some people compared it to Noah's Ark. That's not very kind, but we've got some fantastic cars there. The BMWs, we know how competitive they were last year. That's the BMW Z4 with the V8 engine in it, and all up and down the grid we've got interesting. But the one, to me, the team and the car that will be the most interesting at this stage will be the new McLaren MP412C, run by last year's championship team, Hexus Racing.
Absolutely, they are in the 1 and 2 cars, the 2 Hexus machines. There you can see spectators on top of the pit building looking down over the pit lane as the teams prepare their cars for what will be a session of 3 20-minute smaller sessions. The first session, we will eliminate 3 cars and be left with the top 14. Then the second session we'll lose another 6 cars before we have a top 8 shootout. There is Mike Parisi in the number 9 Team China Porsche. He's the local man here. I think he holds a track record in the GT3 specification of car from a few years ago, so he's very, very strong around here. Can he repeat the performance today in GT1? Strong in testing as well earlier on this week, and he was chatting to me earlier saying he is very much looking forward to this weekend. He's still getting to grips with the Porsche, but he was runner-up in Porsche Carrera Cup France in 2008 after doing 3 years of Porsche Carrera Cup France, so he knows his way around a Porsche. 2009 French GT champion, 3rd in FIA GT in 2010, 2nd last year. Can he go one step further and become world champion this year? Ford GT, Milos Pavlovic driving this one.
Yeah, just to go back to the Porsche, Mike Parisi did a time earlier this week, 1 minute 25.5, which had a number of the other competitors in the pit lane saying, well, we're not overly happy. But of course that's a strong car. Matt Halliday in it alongside Mike Parisi, and Matt Halliday well known for his performances in Porsche in the Southern Hemisphere.
So there you can see the second Hexus McLaren. That one is going to be started by Gregoire de Moustier. Alvaro Parente will take over for the second qualifying session. As you can see, they're all getting ready for this weekend. There is the team Valmont Racing Aston Martin. That is the car driven by Maxime Martin and Alexei Vasiliev. And you can see Maxime Martin sitting in there, ready to get underway. He, of course, won a championship race back in Ordos last year, and it's good to see Maxime Martin back in the championship. Also good to see Marc Basseng and Marcus Winkelhock out in the Alinkel.com Mercedes-Benz SLSs. And they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
And I did see Marc Basseng briefly a moment or two ago, and I did say, Mark, how many spare gearboxes have you got here this weekend? Because last year that was the bane of the Lamborghini Murciélagos that Al Enkel ran, and Marc Basseng was pulling his hair out. He said, we don't have a spare gearbox. This Mercedes is, well, as close to being bulletproof as you can get.
Yeah, let's not curse him. There is a man in a Lamborghini, Prince Albert von Turnen Taxis of Germany. He's going to be starting that car before handing it over to Thomas Enger for the second qualifying session. There's the 32 machine, Stefan Ortelli and Laurence Vanthor racing for the Belgian Audi Club, Team WRT, in their pair of matte black Audi R8 LMS Ultras. The Ultra being added for this year. They've made some changes to that car, and they're hoping to find some more lap time. Here we are then in Nogaro. There is, you can see, a little church just by the side of the racetrack, as we were saying in GT3 qualifying earlier on. A real community spirit around this.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful because you've got this racetrack, you've got the airport, there's a rugby club behind, there's a match going on there right now, and you really have the sense that this is a community circuit. It's not somewhere that is exclusive to the higher echelons of motorsport. It is something that the community has contributed to, and they get a great deal of satisfaction and pleasure out of. And to be here for the first time for me, it's a real pleasure.
Tony Valander getting ready to take his Ferrari 458 out onto the circuit. He's already been out in a Ferrari 458 this year, taking part in Sebring a few weeks ago. The 2007 and 2008 FIA GT2 champion, 2006 Italian GT champion, Tony Valander. So he's a man with incredible GT experience as the race for the exit of the pits begins, and it's going to be one of the Al Inkel cars who gets out first. There we can see Enzo Ide. He's in the sister Ferrari, but out onto the circuit they come. It's going to be Stefan Ortelli. No, it's not, sorry. It's going to be Marc Basseng, who's the first man out on circuit as the cars stream out of the pits. There's the Porsche. the Team China X-Bank car. That is the car being started, I believe, by Benjamin Lariche, the ex-Formula 2 driver, as they head out onto the circuit.
Well, we're saying ambient 13.5 Celsius, track 17.5, humidity relatively high, air pressure, well, that's not going to make a lot of difference right now. So everybody will be keeping a weather eye, because there has been rain here. It rained very heavily here last evening, so everybody will be well aware that there were spots of rain in qualification at different points in the GT3 qualifying, and it's not impossible we might have a similar situation.
Looking out of the commentary box, we just had the whole string of GT1 cars go along the back straight. What a fantastic sight it is. Every brand almost you could possibly want here this weekend in Nogaro. There's the Lamborghini, the Aston, the Ford GT. This one being started, as I said, by Serbian Milos Pavlovic before he hands over to 2004 Italian F3 champion Matteo Cressoni. They're all Frank Stippler first out in that Audi, just trying to back the pack up so he's got a bit of space to run into. Free practice times all seemed very tight as well, didn't they?
Yes, they were, and again the reason we're seeing this bunching of cars is because, quite frankly, what we were talking about, the potential of rain to come in, everybody wants to get out at the earliest opportunity and get a lap in, and rather than maybe holding back for a few minutes, there's not a great deal of time, it's 20 minutes per segment in this one, so everybody will be out and looking to get a lap time in as quickly as possible. Track conditions will change over this remaining 18 minutes. Tyre conditions will change likewise.
Marc Basseng into turn 1 then in the first lap in earnest in this FIA GT1 World Championship of 2012. Into the little right-hand kink at 3, then the very slow, long right-hander at turn 4. It seems to go on forever. Every time you think you can start to squeeze the power on, the corner continues to tighten. Then it doubles back on itself into this hairpin at turn 5. 2 bites at the apex there for Marc Basseng, not quite getting the front tyres fully up to temperature in that Mercedes, which is the heaviest car in the field. You can see there him still working his tyres as he heads down the long back straight, which could be the best opportunity for overtaking this weekend. Then down into the hairpin, and then again it's almost a similar situation to the first one. There I think is his teammate Marcus Winkelhock watching on. Basseng takes the hairpin at turn 7, then turn 9 and 10, doubles back on itself again, running a little bit wide, and then this is the old pit complex on the right-hand side.
No, this is coming through turn 12. They've got to be careful on the exit. We saw in GT3 qualifying some of the cars dropping a wheel off and losing time, potentially damage to the car. If you're overly aggressive now onto that original start-finish straight exit of turn 12, if you run your car all 4 wheels off the racetrack at turn 12, for example, that will be brought to the attention of the stewards. You will maybe have your time deleted from the timing and scoring if that is a good time.
So across the line then soon has come Marc Basseng to do a 1 minute 31.0, so not particularly fast as you'd expect from his first lap out of the pits. This of course is the qualifying session for the qualifying race tomorrow, and then the championship race on Monday.
Stefano Telli running second on the road behind Marc Basseng in the Mercedes. Stefano Telli was within, what, 0.003 of a second on that opening lap. Very experienced driver, winner of many championships and classes and sports cars and GT cars, and no doubt a great asset to this Audi, this Belgian Audi club team WTR.
And it was the Belgian Audi club that have gone fastest in free practice yesterday. Frank Stippler setting the fastest lap time, a 1 minute 27.109. We go on board with Ortelli as he sets the fastest first sector time of anyone so far, and he is now coming through this double right-hander now into the left. Will get his second sector split in just a moment. 31.8 in the first sector. It is a 27.2 in the second sector, so 2.7 seconds up. This could be our first fairly representative lap time. Of course they need to get on with it because we're going to lose 3 cars from this session before the second qualifying session.
Out of turn 12 onto the old start-finish straight, runs the curb on the outside, then up to turn 13 on the brakes, and completing this lap. Easy to overrun into turn 13, get the car straightened out for the final dash across the line out of the exit of 14. And Basseng still quickest, but the gap between first and second is now, what, well, 0.03 of a second.
Yeah, Marc Basseng and Stefano Telli both doing 1 minute 27.6 as Frank Stippler jumps up there as well with a 1 minute 27.7. Darrell Young jumps in there too. Albert von Turnen Taxis does a 27.7 as well. So at the moment we've got a very, very close field up at the front. Just 1/10 of a second separating the top 4 at the moment. Fantastic stuff as we watch the 25 Lamborghini Gallardo of Darrell Young make his way around turn 4, currently lying in 5th position. And we go on board with him now, Watty.
Yes, coming out of turn 5, and then you've got this little sprint through a flat-out curve to the right, turn 6, then the main straight, the quickest part of the racetrack, up to 200, maybe 250 miles, or 250 kilometers per hour for these GT1 cars, these brand new GT1 cars that we're seeing in anger, in action for the first time in 2012.
Darrell Young, the Chinese driver, you may know him from World Touring Cars, where he's been competing for the past couple of years in the Internet Lamborghini.
Explain that, a Chinaman with an Irish name?
I can't.
Let's move on.
So he's been setting personal bests anyway as he comes down into the double right-hander at the far end of the circuit. Turns 11, which flows quite nicely into 12, taking a few bites of the wheel. You can see sequential gear shift in that Lamborghini, but flappy paddle as opposed to the stick shift sequentials we're used to seeing in GT1 over the past few years. What is this lap time going to be? We've got Felipe Salaquada has jumped to the top of the timing screens, and across the line goes Zo Young to go 3rd.
And Otelli has followed through in the RD in 2nd place on the 26.9, now 2/10 away from Salaquada.
Of course, it's Tony Verlander who's in the first car. That timing has just been changed over.
A McLaren, look! There are our first view of a McLaren MP412C, and that is the car.
Fred Makovicky, the number 1. And out of the final corner he comes. He's done his personal best so far in the McLaren GT. 1 minute 28.09, but that's his first lap in anger. It only puts him 9th.
I mean, this is a fantastic car. I managed to get a drive in one of these cars about a year ago. The road car and the race car, surprisingly, are completely different because the race car has to have a normal passive suspension. The road-going McLaren MP412C, as the Porsche takes a bit of a trip around the countryside, but the McLaren has got, the road car has got an active suspension system. That was on the exit or entry into turn 4, and getting it all wrong indeed, and that was
Benjamin Lariche,
well,
taking a trip through his French countryside. This is a very good looking lap for the 33 car of Frank Stippler. 31.3 in sector 1, best of anyone so far, personal best in sector 2. What is this going to be as he exits turn 14? Looking really fast on the exit, using just enough curb, almost clipping that as he comes across the line. Is he going to move to the top? No, it's only 2nd, so a slightly poor final sector, and he's a 10th or so off Tony Verlander's time, but still 2nd provisionally in this session for Frank Stippler.
3 cars within the 1 minute 6-second range. Then the next car up, 4th place, and that's the Peter Cox. Darrell Young, can't get my name. 27.058, so 0.3 of a second covering the top 4 cars.
Absolutely. So here is one of the Ferraris heading down towards us now into the right-hander. This is the 4 machine at the moment.
Yeah, touch of oversteer entering into turn 11, slightly catching Enzo Ide, the man who I christened looking like a banker, but in fact he just looked very young and very studious. But an outstanding driver. We saw that last year in GT3 when he was driving the Belgian Racing Audis.
Across the line comes Enzo Ide. Can he improve? He's currently in 8th position, but he does not improve that time around. So I think he was quickest of anyone, that car, in free practice 2 yesterday afternoon. There's his teammate Francesco Castellacci watching on. 10 minutes of this session then remaining, and at the moment the 3 to drop out would be Andres Zuber, Gregoire de Moustier in the McLaren, and the number 10 car of Milos Pavlovic, the Ford GT.
Which there we are, the Ford GT comes on as if by magic. Comes through turn 10, then the run down into 11. Ford isn't carrying the kind of speed that we've seen from some of the other manufacturers, but the team got the car late. They're still really getting to know the car, to understand what the Ford GT is capable of, and we know from GT3 last year, when this car ran as well as in GT1, of its potential.
Yep, I think Pavlovic has had a few scruffy laps perhaps, because he's currently a considerable way off the pace. This is going to improve him a lot. He still remains in 17th position though, and he is just ahead of one of the Vita for One racing team BMWs. Nicky Meyer-Melnhoff he's just in front of. Nicky Meyer-Melnhoff getting slightly held up. Meanwhile, his teammate is a little bit higher up in the order.
Yeah, and he gets very compromised coming into turn 4. He went past Ford, but was way off the ideal entry into turn 4, that long sort of never-ending corner, and that'll be a frustration for Nicholas Meyer-Manhoff. He will really have lost the momentum that he had just started to build up. And there we see the other two BMWs running, well, not quite line astern, but certainly in echelon.
Yep, the V241 Racing team cars being driven by Nicky Meyer-Manhoff in front, then behind Jelmer Berman. Great to see Jelmer Berman back out in the GT1 Championship. He's only had one GT1 round in his career, and that was at San Luis last year, and he ended up winning both of the races. So it's great to see him back. There's Matthias Lauda. He's going to be taking over from Nicky Meyer-Manhoff, son of Nicky.
Indeed, his youngest son. Well, no, it's not, because Nicky's gone on and started it all over again with a second family at 62 years of age. There's life in the old dog yet.
Absolutely. So we go on board then with Jelmer Berman into the final sequence of corners. This right and then left on the power. Oh, a bit late, really. Not quite.
Not committed, you're talking. But he's going to the pits. There you are. There's always a reason, cause and effect, and that was as get into the pits as quickly as you possibly can. Remember, 60 kilometers per hour throughout the weekend. Break it, and you'll pay.
Absolutely. So there must be Nicky Meyer-Manhoff still out on the circuit. There he goes then, heading down into...
that's into four.
Four, yep. And Meyer-Manhoff currently behind Jelmer Berman, but only by 0.2 of a second or so. As it looks like we're getting a bit of a tyre change. There's Benjamin Lariche. How is he faring after his little excursion? He's 13th, although it looks as though Renway is perhaps out in the car there. Let's see if we can spot the helmet through there. Not quite. I think that does look like Benjamin Lariche to me, so perhaps that's just...
Somebody's not clipped the transponder.
But yeah, it says car number 8, check transponder, wrong driver.
Yes,
so
exactly.
It is Benjamin Lariche out there. We go on board with the Frenchman down into the hairpin. Let's see how late he brakes. Oh, very violent under braking. The steering really snapping away from him. Nice late apex. Now, can you take this little kink flat, or no?
Well, there's rain on the windscreen, so you're not going to be taking. So the rain has started to fall, certainly around the bottom end of the racetrack, and that's in effect, with 7 minutes remaining, going to curb, I would imagine, anybody going any quicker than the current pole sitter. That's car number 3, the Ferrari of Tony Valander, and a 126.776. Now, the rain may just be very localized, and it's not particularly heavy. Nevertheless, it's sufficient. Just once you see it on your windscreen, psychologically you know the track is getting wet and it's going to get slipperier.
Gregoire de Moustier needs to get a move on. He's currently 16th fastest, and that would see him out in qualifying 1. So the second Hexis Racing McLaren in real trouble at the moment, and he's out on the circuit somewhere. You can see the brollies are up for the photographers, and the wet tyres are getting ready, presumably for the second session if necessary. But here then is the number 2 car, Gregoire de Moustier, 16th position at the moment. Not good enough.
No, that's the part of the racetrack where we are seeing it raining more heavily. There are people putting umbrellas up literally around the racetrack, but it was down in that turns 11 and 12 part of the racetrack, and the car is coming in. It's well, no, he's opted to stay out, go for another lap. 6 minutes of the session remaining. He needs to find a bunch of time.
Yeah.
And 1 minute 30.002 is the best part of 3.5 seconds away from the provisional pole held by the Ferrari 458, almost the nemesis of the McLaren MP412C in terms of all the write-ups that you've seen in magazines regarding the two cars as a road car rather than looking at here as a competitive car.
Well, exactly. McLaren versus Ferrari in GT1 is what we've wanted to see for a long time. Throw in Porsche, Aston Martin, BMW and the rest, and we're going to have a very fun season. The Hexis team looking understandably concerned though, as de Moustier, the Frenchman, has, well, there's a picture of concern for you. Down into the braking zone, really having to work that car hard, isn't he?
Yeah, no, but the car looked unstable under braking. Again, we couldn't tell just how damp the track at that point is. There's no intermittent on the wiper on the McLaren, but I suspect that the rainfall has not been really sufficiently heavy to make a huge amount of difference. But the car was nervous under braking as we saw it come down, weaving around a little bit now as well. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with Gregoire de Moustier on this lap. I had anticipated him, in fact, going into the pits prior to starting this lap. I don't think this is going to do anything whatsoever to the position of the car. Currently 16th overall.
He'll pit now. I think he's really cruising, or will he just fire it out of the final corner. No, he fires it out of the final corner. Demoustier really feeling the pressure. So let's hear from Philippe Dumas, actually, boss at Hexis Racing. He's down with Haley. What's going on?
Philippe, it looked like that the team have made some mistakes.
I don't know. Some mistake?
Did you send the cars out too late?
No, I think the track is okay. No, definitely. I think the car is too slow for the moment. We have not good option. I think with the balance of performance is not pretty good for the McLaren, but anyway, it's the beginning, and you know that we do our best for the race. Okay?
Thank you.
So, there's the answer. Hexis Racing heading down into the hairpin. What can Grégoire Demoustier do?
Well, all he can do is actually what he is doing, and that's stay out on racetrack. The rain that may have been falling appears to have disappeared, so he's just staying out, keeping his tyres warm. He's got 3.5 minutes of the session remaining, so warm tyres, a drying track, and just, you know, close your eyes and think of McLaren, and you may get yourself through this session.
Absolutely. Maxime Martin is currently 14th quickest at the moment.
Just a brief scenario. At one stage in my life, my teammate and I failed to qualify for an important Grand Prix, and the boss of the team, a certain Mr. Ron Dennis, said, I'd rather the pair of you had crashed than not qualify. I don't think Philippe is thinking about that right now with his two drivers.
Absolutely. So those
what
were the
can
days.
you say?
Those were the days.
No, that's what you had with the team boss. I'd rather you crashed than didn't qualify.
So we go on board with Maxime Martin. He's just coming into the final corner now. He hasn't really improved on his lap time so far, so this isn't going to send him any further up the grid. Milos Pavlovic, meanwhile, has just set his fastest first sector of anyone, which is good news for him. Into turn 2 he comes. Let's stay on board with this number 7 Aston Martin of Maxime Martin. Martin, of course, drove a few races for the LMP Motorsport team in FIA GT3 last year, as we watch Jelmer Berman still out there, still in 10th place, so fairly safe to move into Q2, so he's coming into the pits. But 10th and 11th, I don't think it's exactly where Vita for One would want to be, considering their past championship success.
Well, we've now got the top 10. This is that was the sister car of this. Top 10 are now in the pit lane. Their job is done with 2 minutes of the session remaining. Just watching the sister BMW as it is currently in 11th place. And Nicholas Meyer-Mayhoff trying to improve the car he's sharing with Matthias Lauda. Again, interesting just the way he pulls into the entry into turn 4. It doesn't look to me like there's the kind of flow coming from behind the wheel of this BMW that I would anticipate you would be looking forward to gain performance in that particular corner.
Grégoire Demoustier has just jumped up into 15th position, so it's turning into a bit of a battle between Grégoire Demoustier and Maxime Martin to avoid the drop, because the top 14 go through from this first session at the moment. Demoustier, Zuber and Pavlovic will be going out. Maxime Martin jumps up into 12th place, so that leaves Demoustier still in the drop zone, and Benjamin Lariche now in trouble in the Team China Porsche.
Yeah, but it's the China Porsche, there's the car under the Karsh, but they've got a 0.4 of a second advantage over the McLaren right now, but the Porsche is in the pits, the McLaren is on the track, and again, as I mentioned, although the weather had changed marginally, there was a sprinkling of rain. Stay out, keep those tyres warm, and you may just find yourself in the right position at the right time to get through to the second qualifying segment.
So 17 cars out there, 14 will go through to the second qualifying session, so we need to lose 3. At the moment in 17th place is Milos Pavlovic in the Ford. 16th position is the number 6 Aston Martin of Andreas Zuber, and 15th position is the McLaren GT of Grégoire Demoustier. Currently they are the 3 that will be dropping out unless Demoustier can find 0.4 of a second to get past Benjamin Lariche. There's Milos Pavlovic in the Ford GT. Very difficult run up to the weekend for them. The second car not ready. It'll be out in Zolder, which will be fantastic to see. Pavlovic.
Well, it was an improvement, a personal improvement, but clearly it's too far away from the pace. Certainly of the front running cars, over 5 seconds differential.
And Demoustier does it on that very final lap. He jumps up into 13th position with a 1 minute 28.873. So that means that 17th place Milos Pavlovic, 16th place Andreas Zuber, and 15th place Team China car Benjamin Lariche will be the 3 drivers that will not go through. Grégoire de Moustier, under an awful lot of pressure, managed to pull it out of the bag. He did a 1 minute 28.8. His teammate did a 1 minute 28.0, so de Moustier still 8 tenths or so off the pace. And he may even have another lap in this if he wants to complete it, but I doubt he will. But he has now just saved himself from elimination.
Well, there's a lot to be said, and that's what the team is about, and the team principal. Philippe, we saw him being interviewed by Haley Coxon a moment or two ago. Just keep that car on track. It's about learning. It's a vertical curve for the McLaren MP412Cs. This is a brand new car. It is a car that has competed in some Blancpain meetings event last year, but into GT1, this is a new experience.
Yep, into the right-hander then. Grégoire de Moustier can finish this lap if he so desires, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him pull into the pits because his first 2 seconds have been fairly mild. He's cruising around the penultimate corner, so it's job done for now for Grégoire de Moustier. He'll hand over to Alvaro Parente, the McLaren development driver, and let's see what he can do. Fred Makovicky looks mildly satisfied with his performance. He's in 9th position. There are our 3 not qualified drivers: the Porsche 911 of Benjamin Lariche, the Aston Martin DBRS 9 of Andrzej Zuber, that he is going to be sharing with Sergei Afanasiev. So, and the tanker of Milos Pavlovic. That means no driving in this qualifying session for Sergei Afanasiev, Ren Wei, or Matteo Personi. There's Michael Bartels.
Again, there is rain around the track. You can see in the side window of that BMW, and a little bit on the camera lens now in turn 4. So it'll be an exciting session 2.
Let's hear from our quickest man in that session, Tony Valander.
Tony, fastest. Are you happy with the 458?
Yeah, it's quite okay. I'm getting used to now the GT3 car with the ABS and some other differences to the GT2 car I'm used to. It's quite okay. Actually, car felt quite good now in the Quali 1. So now it's Philip, and hopefully we get to Q3 and try to push again.
So you're happy with the pace? You think you'll make it through?
Yeah, of course. I hope and I wish we do it. So it's going to be a tight battle. All the rivals are really close, so there's another margin of error. So.
Thank you, Tony.
So we had 3 tenths of a second covering the top 4 drivers in that session, and 3 different brands in there as well.
Just interesting, the 2 Porsche there's the China number 8, which didn't make it through, but the sister car with Mike Parisi and Matt Halliday was 2 seconds a lap quicker, and that's the difference between being in 5th place provisionally and being outside of the top 14 in 15th place.
So there's Sergei Afanasiev. No driving for you this afternoon, I'm afraid, Sergei, but he'll be out tomorrow.
You know, for those drivers that haven't qualified in the first of these 3 qualifying segments, it's a real cold call, because when they get into the car, other than on the warm-up, they're not going to have any real experience of where the car has gone over the period of these qualifying segments. It's quite tough.
Absolutely. So what happens now is, just like in Formula 1, the times will get eliminated, and this next session will start completely afresh with only 15th, 16th and 17th positions decided on the grid for tomorrow's qualifying race. Milos Pavlovic being reversed into the garage. Let's hear from Andreas Zuber. He couldn't quite make it through in his Aston Martin. He's with Haley.
Andy, can you provide us with an update? What's going on with the Aston Martin?
We're happy that it's driving, honestly, but I lost the power steer now in the qualifying because we changed the engine and there's something wrong. And yeah, I just couldn't steer the car without power steer. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
So, you know, these guys, power steering, lost the power steering, couldn't drive the car. You know, what world are we living in? What are we living in? You know, let's wake up and smell the coffee, guys. Get down the gym, pump some iron. You know, the training program for Andreas Zuber definitely has got to go up about 10 gears, because, you know, you can never guarantee your power steering won't fail in a race. What are you going to come in and say, oh, it's too heavy, I can't drive the car? Get in the gym and do some work, boy.
John Watson commentating whilst doing press-ups here at Nogaro, and
pumping blood pressure, I think.
His health and fitness DVD will be released at Christmas, and you can get that if you're an aspiring racing
And
driver.
I promise you, I won't wear a leotard.
Okay, lovely. Let's move on and look at the 24-rider Lamborghini. Albert von Turn and Taxis ran it for the first session. Now it's the turn of Thomas Enger, ready to rock in this second qualifying session. Of course, he raced in FIA GT1 last year with the Aston Martin, finishing 4th in the championship. In the end, 3rd place in the Formula 3000 series back in the late 90s and early 2000s, so a very strong single-seater racer, moving to GTs in 2010. He's had 1 GT1 win so far and 3 qualifying race wins as well, so he's going to be hoping to bring some of that success to the Lamborghini this year.
And I tell you what, if one driver team pairing is going to be a laugh, it's going to be Albert von Turn and Taxis, Thomas Enger, both tremendous personalities and characters in their own right. In the case of Thomas Enger, an extremely accomplished driver who has, his career, for a reason which probably will not go into right now, never really developed, but the ability and the talent certainly is there.
So, according to the official timing screens, it's being classified as a wet practice session. Now, yes, and there's a gentleman walking down the pit lane with a big board telling all the teams that there's a course par temps humide, which means wet trace, is the rough translation. Now, I don't know about you, John, but looking out the window, it doesn't look too wet. It certainly doesn't look wet enough for wet tyres.
No, it's not. You couldn't run wet tyres in these current conditions. I mean, there's been a very light rain sprinkle, that's what I would call it. And there, Madame and her daughter are taking cover as much from the wind as they would be from any moisture in the air. But look behind you, those clouds are threatening. And around about this time yesterday, maybe an hour or so later, we did have a very unpleasant thunderstorm that came through, lasted for the best part of 3 or so hours. I don't see that level of rain in the immediate future.
So the second qualifying session is underway. The top 8 will make it through, so we're going to be losing 6 cars from this qualifying session. There's a lot to fight for, so it's the same 3-session format as in Formula 1, where each pair of teams will challenge to not be one of the 6 cars eliminated from this session. And there is a man who's possibly feeling a bit of pressure, Álvaro Parente, the Portuguese driver in the number 2 McLaren that only just scraped through the first session. There's Albert von Turn and Taxis, happy man with his session. And I think he just told us it's raining. Thanks for that, Albert.
Yeah, we spotted that, Albert. Thank you very much. But of course, that's part of the fun and games of Albert von Turn and Taxis. Charming young man, and you're doing a strong job in GT1, or hopefully we're doing that for his teammate in GT1 this year.
Yeah, a very good performance from him, ending up that session down in the early teens. I actually think it was just about the lower reach of the top 10, but out then onto the back section of the circuit with windscreen wipers going. Yeah, well, certainly only Thomas Jaeger, I think.
Well, Thomas Jaeger was certainly in a bit of a hurry up. Everybody's now backed off and sort of backing one another up as they come into turn 13. Consequently, it's a bit of a waste of time. You need to give yourself a lot more space than we're seeing. We've seen the Porsche right now, Matt Halliday in that Porsche sharing with Mike Parisi, dropping back from the Audi to get out of the effect of the aerodynamics on the nose of the Porsche. And remember, the Porsche, the engine in a Porsche, in all Porsche 911s, hangs out behind the rear wheels, as opposed to the majority of cars that we're seeing here this weekend, where the engine is ahead of the rear wheels.
Englishman Oliver Jarvis is going to be the first man to set a competitive lap time in this qualifying session. Oh no, there's a Ferrari just up the road, isn't there? But we're watching Jarvis.
And Thomas Enger likewise.
Exactly, so we're watching Jarvis anyway. He's driving for this Team WRT Audi squad after driving for Audi for 4 seasons actually in DTM. And so he knows his way around the Audi squad. British Formula 3 runner-up back in 2006, so another driver with real talent as we watch Thomas Enger, who we mentioned earlier, heading down towards the right-left. Now the fastest lap in the first session.
126.7.
Yeah, 126.7, so let's see how close they can get straight out of the blocks. This is going to be a 27 or something, I imagine, from Thomas Enger. 28.0, so not a bad first effort, a sighting lap to get in the zone.
So the first of the Ferraris getting into sight. So what happens there, we're looking to see, so it's Enger, Jaeger and Cox, the top three.
So there we can see the Mercedes following the Audi very, very closely. I thought they may have dropped off to give each other a little bit more room. Ex-Formula 1 driver Marcus Finkelhock now in his 38 Alinkel.com Mercedes SLS, turning his way through turns 2 and then 3, down to 4 as we go on board with Philippe Salaquada. He is Tony Volander's teammate, so this was the quickest car in the first session. Can Salaquada repeat the trick in this second session?
Through turns 11 and 12, then down into 13 on the brakes. As you go down again, just pulls one gear. Can just be feeling the circuit all the way around as you come out of turn 14 onto the start, finish straight, and goes on to complete another lap. And where is that car?
5th position at the moment at 1 minute 30.2 for Philippe Salaquada.
That's 2.5 seconds away from the time Tony Vollander did in that first part of the 3-part qualifying segment. Track conditions are different.
They are indeed. Oliver Jarvis then heading Thomas Jaeger down into turns 11 and 12. I'm surprised Jaeger isn't backing off a little bit, unless he's trying to follow Jarvis and learn the circuit a little bit. There's Nicky Pastorelli. He's Thomas Jaeger's teammate in that 37 Alinkel.com Mercedes, and that's going to be a pit stop for Thomas Jaeger. That's a little bit early. I'd have expected him to go out and try and get a few more laps under his belt. Pastorelli not looking too fussed, and at the moment then on the timing screens it's Francesco Castellacci in the number 4 AF Corsa Ferrari, the reigning FIA GT3 champion, who is at the top of the timing screens. Thomas Enger second, Laurens Vanthoor in third, and Peter Cox in fourth.
And that's just about matching the time from Tony Vollander in that first qualifying segment on the 1:27.76. So in fact Castellacci has gone quicker in the sister car driven by Eid. So they're looking strong. Car 4.
So are the Porsches coming across the line. Mike Parisi making his way up there. Sorry, Matt Halliday, isn't it, in the car now?
Yeah.
He's in 7th position. Matt having quite a lot of experience with Porsches. He's raced in the Super Cup for the past few years, a little bit of Aussie V8s as well. But the man from Auckland learnt the track yesterday in the free practice session, and learning the car as well, so it's a tough ask for him as he heads down the back straight.
Alvaro Parent in number 2 McLaren, and looking to see where we can get that car, currently in 5th place, and his time again 1.4 seconds quicker than we saw from Gregoire de Musier, who was struggling to get this car through the first segment of qualifying. Alvaro Parent more familiar with the car, but also at a basic higher level of out-and-out ability.
It seems so at the moment. He's set his personal bests in the first 2 sectors, so this could be Parent moving up a little bit further. As we say, he's currently in 7th position, takes quite a lot of curb on the inside of turn 14. Does this improve him from 7th? No, it does not, and it's not an improvement either. Laurens Vanthoor comes across the line to go 5th, setting the fastest first sector of anyone. On go the new tyres, because it's vital. I'll remind you once more, the top 8 go through to the final qualifying session, so we've still got 6 cars to lose.
And then the car on the bubble is the car that set the fastest time in the first sector. So the Tony Vollander Salaquada Ferrari 458 is the first car outside of the top 8.
Salaquada Jaeger, the 7 car of Alexei Vasiliev.
And that car, Vollander Salaquada car, as we speak, has now jumped up to 3rd quickest.
Trouble for the Vita for One racing team at the moment. 12th and 13th places. Michael Bartels and Matthias Lauda. They are the 2 cars down the bottom, although we haven't actually seen the number 1 car out yet. I've just spotted that. Steph Dusseldorp in the pits, no lap set in that number 1 McLaren.
No, and it's a work in progress right now for the McLaren team in general, though that strong run we saw from Alvaro Parent to put that car currently, we're looking at where it's gone to.
Yep, it's so it's 9th place for the number 2 McLaren.
Yes, just as it was in the top 8, now it's dropped down but they've jumped back up again now, up into 6th place.
So there we saw Stef Dusseldorp, the young Dutchman, sitting in the car down there at Hexis Racing. And there's Nicky Meyer-Melnhof looking on with some concern, although Matthias Lauda has just jumped up into 11th place. Now we go on board with Michael Bartels, who is the 2010 FIA GT1 World Champion driver, numerous FIA GT titles before it became the World Championship in 2010, but he's struggling a little bit, although he's done his personal best in Sector 1. You can see his face in the rear view mirror as he heads down into the hairpin, braking about 120 metres before the turn-in, struggling to get it stopped, but he makes it there. Oh, big slide on the exit, massive oversteer, and that's going to lose him some time.
Yeah, you can hear on the down change, it's quite a clunky down change on that BMW. It doesn't. So Nicholas Meyer-Melnhof having a look at what's taking place on screen.
So the number 1 car of Stef Dusseldorp, they're having trouble with the starter motor, apparently.
I tell you, getting to that is a real pain, because you've got to take effectively all the underbody of the car or the rear to get access to it. It's not something that you can just simply drop your hand down with a spanner or whatever you need to do to get the starter motor to fire. It is a problem, and it may take longer than the 5.5 minutes of the session that remain.
Michael Bartels crosses the line and moves up into 11th place. It's still not enough to save him from elimination. Nicky Meyer-Melnhof shaking his head. He's not too pleased with how things are looking for his BMW teammate in the Vita for One racing team.
And this car, Peter Cox, first car on the bubble in 9th place. Peter Cox looking to try and do something, not seeing anything particularly special on the sector times on this lap, but he needs to find right now, well, certainly just a couple of tenths a second would get him up to 8th, maybe into 7th place, and challenge Alvaro Parent in the lead of the 2 McLaren.
So 9th place then for Peter Cox, but the top 9, John, covered by 0.6 of a second. That's how close it is out there. We're saying, oh, they're a little bit further down the order than they'd want to be, but it's literally just over half a second and you're on pole position.
Well, you know, the whole thing is structured around an equivalency formula to guarantee that no one manufacturer or team will have ultimate control or dominance of the FIA GT1 World Championship. And of course everybody wants to have that position, but when you see the closeness of the field, then you have to say that the equivalency is working very well.
So we saw Nicky Meyer-Melnhof looking a little bit concerned. He's down in the pits with Haley now.
Nicky, unfortunately, you don't seem to be on the pace. What's the reason for that?
Yeah, I don't know where to start with excuses, but first of all, I think the first 2 days that we weren't here, we're missing those 2 days, and we can't get to grips with the tires. Really hard, we can't get them to work, and on the straights also, we don't have any power, and we're really struggling, but we'll fight, and we'll see at the end of the race how we do, but as it looks right now, not very promising, but we'll give it our best.
Thank you.
Not very promising because, as I've said, we will lose 6 drivers from this session. Just like in Formula 1, the top 8 will go through to the 3rd qualifying.
Yeah, Nicky Meyer-Melnhof was saying about tyres. We are running Pirelli tyres in FIA GT1 and GT3. It's the first year of their association. Previously it was a Michelin tyre. Teams are familiar with that tyre's characteristic. They've got to learn what the tyre does, not just in a single lap of qualifying, but over a duration. And also saying, well, we've got no power. But that's the same comment that comes from everybody in the pit lane. We've got no power. What does it matter if nobody's got no power? No one's got a disadvantage or an advantage.
Absolutely. So car number 38 is under investigation for crossing the white line on the pit exit. That is Marcus Winkelhock. So you'd expect a driver of his experience to be a little more pit lane entry, sorry, so that must have been a late decision to come into the pits.
Yeah, he's come out of turn 14 and said, pit, Bosch, turn it, not Bosch, Mercedes, turn it sharp, sharp left, and of course he's transgressed the regulations. You come into the pits at a speed that's appropriate. You try to nick every fraction of a second that you can, but on this occasion, that was just a little bit too aggressive from Marcus Winkelhock.
Of course, a late pit decision from Marcus Winkelhock was what put him into the lead at the 2007 German Grand Prix.
This Porsche, driven by Matt Halliday, is on the bubble as we speak. Can they remove themselves from that bubble? In 9th place, comes across start-finish line. No, it stays on the bubble.
He was 7 seconds off, so he must have made a mistake somewhere on that lap. So Matt Halliday, the New Zealander, heading in into turn 2. We've got 2 minutes remaining, and at the moment it's Halliday. Cox was in like 5th place a minute ago. That's how close the times are.
Thomas Enger
goes quickest of anyone in the Reiter Engineering Lamborghini.
Who would have thought of car 24, that's the sister car, that's 25, and that's down in 10th place with Peter Cox, and going slowly.
Yeah, it was going slowly down the back straight, but I assumed he was just waiting to try and give himself some more room, so we'll see if he stamps on the power and goes for a flying lap. But there is our current quickest man, Thomas Enger, 1 minute 26.4 exactly. Albert von Turner Taxis, very, very happy indeed.
Well, he better not get too happy, because he's got to deliver back in that car. Provisional pole, so it will be in Albert von Turner Taxis' hand as to where that car will actually line up on the grid.
Absolutely. Nicky Meyer-Melnhoff happy because his car has now moved up into 12th position.
I don't know why he's happy at that.
No.
Shouldn't be.
But Stef Dusseldorp still hasn't left the pits in the McLaren, and it is now too late. So Stef Dusseldorp is going to be out of this.
Up to 11th place for
Matthias Lauda in the V1 Racing Team BMW. So at the moment it's Matt Halliday, Peter Cox. Peter Cox is coming to the pits, so perhaps a problem for Peter Cox. We'll have to go and find out about that. Matthias Lauda and this man, Michael Bartels, are set to be out, as well as Alexei Vasiliev in the Aston Martin and Stef Dusseldorp.
That's a big surprise for me to see those two BMW Z4s not getting through the second sector. That car was a hot rod in GT1 last year, and certainly our GT3 as well, and everybody presumed that watch BMW the Z4, it is just unbelievable. But the change in formula, we're now in GT1 regulations, GT form, and maybe missing those earlier days testing here is hurting the team more than they anticipated.
But he's also behind a Lamborghini, an Audi R8, a Ferrari, all such ridiculously fast cars that it's always going to be tricky. There's always going to be surprises, and I don't think this is going to be enough for Michael Bartels to make it through. The rest of the dropouts are fairly well confirmed. A little bit of opposite lock. Is he going to sling it out of the final corner and go for it? I don't think this is going to be good enough for Bartels. He needs to go up into 12th position so he stays the same. He doesn't even improve.
No, that's disappointment for Michael Bartels.
Matthias Lauda across the line. He doesn't improve either.
So it's 11 and 12 for the two BMWs, and well, Nicky Meyer-Melnhoff, there you go. What can you say? You've been a bit of hand reading and sign language. But look at the Porsche, 9th place. Session is finished. Did he get across the line before the flag came out or not? I'm not quite sure. But currently, if they are in 9th position, there's nothing much they can do.
It looks like he's still going for it, doesn't he?
Well, it was a very close call if he got across the line before the flag came out. We didn't quite catch it. We just saw the car exiting into turn 1.
And the Porsche only needs to... Oh no, the checker flag is a little checker flag symbol, so he didn't make it. So that means that 9th position on the grid will be Matt Halliday. 10th position will be Peter Cox in the Lamborghini. 11th and 12th, the two V1 Racing Team cars that you can see there, the BMW Z4s, Lauda and Bartels. 13th position on the grid will be the Aston Martin of Alexei Vasiliev and Maxime Martin. 14th on the grid, devastatingly, presumably for the Hexis team, the McLaren of Fred Makovicky and Stef Dusseldorp, the number 1 car. But that man there, Thomas Enger, fastest of anyone, fantastic performance, and he's just giving Albert von Turner Taxis some tips.
Yeah, well, I mean, Albert will get into the car with feeling the heat and the pressure from the performance that Thomas has just put in. Stunning lap, 1 minute 26.400, 3/10 of a second ahead of the Ferrari 458 of Castellecci and Enzo Eid.
So let's hear from Thomas Enger. Haley's down there.
Congratulations, fastest in Q2, Thomas. You've got to be happy with performance of the Lamborghini.
For sure, yeah. We didn't know where we are at after the tests and after the free practices yesterday. Obviously, nobody knew what other people are doing, what they are testing, what they are trying. But yeah, so far it's looking good. I'm pretty sure that Albert can do a great job in Q3 as well. For me, it was job as always to try to put the car in Q3, and now it's up to Albert. But the car is great, as I expected before I came to the team. You know, it's kind of car I really like, rear-wheel drive, but it handles like a go-kart with a lot of power. So I really enjoy it.
With a wealth of experience in the World Championship, you've been offering Albert any advice?
Well, I told him, you know, just trust the car, and the car is able to do it. I mean, the suspension is really good, the handling of the car is really good. Just need to trust it, throw the car into the corner, and it will go around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Easy as that.
Well, to be honest, great advice. And for Thomas, that's a walk in the park. He could do that all day and all night long. But Albert van Toornen-Taxis has not got the degree of experience or probably ultimate ability of Thomas Enge. And to say, just chuck it into the corner and trust us, Al. It'll be okay, Al. If the car comes back in the back of a flatbed truck, I don't think Thomas will be saying, chuck it into a corner, Al. Let's hope that is not the case, and Albert van Toornen-Taxis goes out and supports the superb performance we've seen from Thomas Enge in the second of these 3 qualifying segments.
So, the cars through to the final qualifying session. The number 2 Hexus McLaren, which will be driven by Gregoire de Messier. The number 3 AF Corsa Ferrari of Tony Verlander. Number 4 AF Corsa Ferrari of Enzo Ede. The 24 Reiter Lamborghini, which will be driven by Albert van Toornen-Taxis. The 2 Audis, we haven't really spoken about them, but they're a real threat for pole position. They've been lurking there or thereabouts in both sessions so far. Both cars through, Stefan Ortelli in the 32, Frank Stippler in the 33, and then both of the Al Inkel Mercedes. Nicky Pastorelli will be out in the 37 car, and Marc Basseng out in the 38 for the final 10-minute pole position shootout here at Nogaro, which will decide the grid for tomorrow's qualifying race.
Exciting prospect. Hard to judge who could be on that pole position. Weather may have a bearing, so we have to wait and see. Will it be a Ferrari, an Audi, or a Lamborghini?
Let's hear from a Ferrari driver, Francesco Castellacci.
New to the World Championship, Francesco, it's turning out to be quite the qualifying for you.
Yeah, it was quite good at qualifying. The objective was to put it in the first 8 for Enzo. We have a good strategy now for the first race. We have good tyres. We're looking forward. I'm sure Enzo will do a really good job.
458 is certainly looking competitive on track.
Yeah, it's really competitive. We like it's really adaptive, very good to this kind of circuit, which is a mix of slow and medium corners. So we're looking forward for a good result.
Thank you.
Confident young man, and he knows his teammate Enzo Ede, who did a very good job. I was very impressed with him last year, and also he's a character, he's a personality. When you see him in the pit lane, you just never think he could drive anything, let alone a race car.
Well, here's classification then from that second session. Of course, these times will be completely wiped and will start afresh, but the Lamborghini, as you can see, quickest of anyone. The teammate though, Peter Cox, 9/10 of a second off Thomas Enge, which is a surprise because Peter Cox is somewhat of a Lamborghini expert, so he'll be interested to find out exactly what happened there. The top 8 will be the cars we have in the final session in a few moments' time, so it'll be 9th on the grid for the Exim Bank Porsche, 10th for the Ryder Engineering car, 11th and 12th for the V1 Racing team.
And what I'm impressed by is, in effect, in the first qualifying session of the 2012 season, the top 10 cars, although only the top 8 go through, but the top 10 are covered by 9/10 of a second. So considering some people have had more experience or time with their particular chosen mark than others have had, that's very, very good for me. Looking forward 2 weeks' time in Zolder, and then looking further down the road, and great season in prospect.
Exactly. It's looking good for tomorrow as well, when the racing finally gets underway. There then, in the car, Marc Basseng, the team manager of Al Inkel. He was 5th in the GT1 World Championship last season, after I think leading the championship for a short spell, heading to Paul Ricard. He's competed every single round of the FIA GT1 World Championship, all 20 of them, and only picked up 1 win so far. He'll be looking to change that this weekend. Then we've got the 2 matte black, fantastic looking Belgian Audi Club Team WRT cars. It's going to be Stefan Ortelli, massively experienced racer, who was the quickest yesterday. He is going to be out, and he wouldn't be a bad shout for pole position. He's got championships are plenty, I should say, but also Tony Verlander. The driving field is so good.
All right, Jack, put your money where your mouth is.
Right.
Who are you going to have on pole position?
Stefan Ortelli, I think, will be on pole position for this one. John Watson, what's your opinion?
Tony Verlander in the Ferrari.
Okay, there we go. We've made our beds. Let's hear from Marcus Winkelhock, Marc Basseng's teammate before Q3.
Marcus, we just saw you giving Mark some advice. What were you passing on to him?
Yeah, just how the car just told him how the car felt. I tried to give him some advices how to drive the car, but it felt not so bad. I think 26.8 was, I think, my best lap time on the weekend. So we still can improve a little bit on the car, on the setup, but it felt much better than in free practice. So I'm looking forward now.
Thank you.
So yeah, the new exhaust, as Haley just mentioned, on the Mercedes, brand new for GT1, and it's proper loud when you go out next to the circuit, or if you're in the garage when it pulls away like we were just then.
Yeah, and it sounded to me like he just floored it on the limiter and it was actually cutting out, and that's the way that they were taking it out of the pit lane, but it makes an awful noise, as opposed to the noise that when you hear it here coming down the main straight on full throttle is entirely different.
Yeah.
But it's not pleasant when the cars are leaving the pit lane.
So they're running line astern, the two Mercedes, followed by the two Audis, followed by the only Lamborghini, Albert von Turnentaxis. What can he do in what is only his 5th or 6th season of racing?
The worst he can do is start in the 4th row of the grid.
Yeah.
What a terrible thing to do. How bad is that? He'll be delighted under normal circumstances if that was his start position, and anything above that is a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a fascinating 10-minute qualifying session. We've already down to just 8.5 minutes left, and I think it's going to be Marc Basseng who's the first man out on the circuit, and out over the start-finish line he comes. There's Marcus Winkelhock, who we were just talking to. 33-year-old Marc Basseng heads into turn 1 then.
And just coming down pit straight, weaving the car slightly, so clearly still concerned about the tyre temperature. Again, understanding these Pirelli tyres, and these are not tyres like the Formula 1 tyres that Pirelli provide. They're designed to go a much greater distance without the kind of drop-off that the Formula 1 tyre is designed to provide.
Yep, into the hairpin at turn 5 then comes Marc Basseng. So the quickest Q2 time was at 26.4. Of course, they're not allowed to refuel during this qualifying session, so the cars now will be at their lightest. The tyres, presumably if they make a change of them, will be at their strongest, so we should be seeing a pole position in the mid-26s.
Yeah, I mean, the sets of tyres they have available should be the freshest set and with the least amount of fuel on board. So this is all about performance. At the end of the day, what you do in Sector 1, qualifying Sector 2, is all about getting through to this final qualifying segment. Now, blow the doors off the competition. That's what it's about.
Absolutely. So the car's still weaving to try and get some heat into the tyres. Of course, it's a little bit chillier here at Nogaro than it will be at some of the other circuits we visit. And I know you spoke to Pirelli yesterday. They said they've designed this compound so it can cope with all kinds of heat, from kind of dull French days to the Navarra heat that we'll have a few weeks later.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about Portimao in Portugal in July, where it'll be stinking hot, or the final round of the year in India. First time GT1 will go to India. What a fantastic race that should be. And you cannot imagine the temperature, the humidity that we might be having to contend with there.
Exactly, so the Pirelli tyres in this 14-degree air temperature here at Nagaro, having to work hard to get up to temperature. We've been enjoying this onboard lap with Tony Verlander as he's about to come across the line now, considerably off the pace, as you can see. It's going to be a 28-29 perhaps for Verlander, 29.2. So still a few seconds to find as Felipe Salaquada watches on.
So I would imagine this is Tony Verlander. Now you can see just the amount of curb he took on the entry into turn 2. Again, using the curb, running over, hitting that marker. And be careful you don't do too much of that, because that, again, is not what the stewards want to see. But this lap, as opposed to his previous lap, the 29.2, this is the lap where we should see a 27 and maybe into the 26s.
Stefan Ortelli, fastest man of anyone in the first sector. He's done a 31.240. Tony Verlander has just beaten that, and Nicky Pastorelli has gone fastest of anyone in the middle sector. So this really is anyone's game as the gravel is kicked up. Unfortunately, Gregoire de Moustier in that number 2 McLaren is still in the pit lane, so we'll try and find out what's going on there. But here comes Stefan Ortelli into the final sequence of corners. He's done a personal best. Marc Basseng has gone top, 1 minute 26.876. Can Stefan Ortelli beat that as he comes across the line? I think he might do here. A 1 minute 26.330, fastest time of the weekend so far.
Absolutely, and it looked good. You could see that Ortelli was right on it.
and his teammate goes
Stippler
second.
as well, Frank Stippler in the second of the two Belgian racing Audis. So those Audis, maybe your money's looking good here, Jack. Wait to see what the Ferrari is going to do. Car 4 is the Enzo Ede car. Enzo comes across the line and is in 7th place.
Well, no, that was Tony Verlander. The number 3 car, I think, has gone top now, hasn't he?
My man's gone top on a 26-1. That was the sister car of Enzo Ede.
Exactly. So now here comes Marc Basseng.
Oh, under brakes, the back end twitches again,
Such
just unsettles the driver just coming into turn 7 at the end of the straight.
Marc Basseng was saying that the Mercedes is about 60 kilograms heavier than having the next heaviest car, if that makes any sense. So that's like having I don't want to say a Haley-sized passenger because I daren't ask what her weight is, but something in that region.
My sort of size.
Yeah, your sort of size, John. As Marc Basseng comes over the old start-finish straight. He's done an average middle sector though, hasn't he? I don't think this is going to put him on pole position. He's currently in 4th place as he runs very, very wide. Oh,
did he ever cloud that coming out of turn 14?
And he doesn't improve this time.
No, stays in 4th place.
So the order is the 3 Ferrari, then the 2 WRT cars, 32 followed by 33, the 38 Al-Inkle Mercedes, the 4 Ferrari. Here comes the replay.
And it really lets the car run wide early on the exit, and not only runs the curb, he's got almost 4 wheels off, but as the curb ends and the racetrack continues, there's a dip there, and the right rear of that car dropped off. Much better exit here from this Ferrari. This is Enzo Ede, comes through, still in 5th place on a 1:27.010.
He had a very poor first sector, fastest second sector of anyone, but Enzo Ede's first sector was a little bit messy out there. As we now watch Frank Stippler heading down the back straight. He's in a mildly average first sector, about 0.3 of a second off the pace he'd want to be at, so I don't think this is going to be a rocket ship. But yeah, Enzo Ede.
Yeah, and that first sector on that last lap was the fastest car of all. Didn't do the best overall, but had personal best in the remaining sectors.
2 minutes and 40 seconds remaining here at Nogaro in the battle for pole position in the qualifying race, which is coming up tomorrow at 2:15 local time. Down into this double right-hander once more comes Frank Stippler. Not great lap so far, is it?
No, but the car body language looks positive. Frank Stippler looks like he knows what he's doing. He knows that the idea is working well underneath him. He just has got to find another few tenths of a second to put that car on the front row of the grid. On the second row, stays on that second row.
So he's only 1/10.5 of a second behind pole position. There's Oliver Jarvis watching on as the number 4 car, the Ferrari 458 Italia, run by AF Corsa. Another mildly average lap. He's backed off.
Yeah, he's backed off completely. He's probably going straight back into the pits. He's on the third row of the grid presently, alongside Nicky Pastorelli in the Mercedes-Benz. But it's still my man in this, that sister car of this number 4, Tony Verlander, who has set the fastest time so far, 1:26.138, a 1/10 of a second quicker than Stefano Felli, the man you backed. Don't want to rub it in, but...
No, exactly. Just wait until the clock counts down, John. Then we'll see who's laughing. So the 32 car, Stefano Telli, has had a poor first sector. We can see the McLaren getting pushed backwards up the pit lane. That is the Gregoire de Moustier car. So presumably they're just pushing it straight into Parc Fermé because it never went out.
It never went out, and the team had a problem with the sister car in the second of qualifying with the starter motors. They couldn't get that car out, and Alvaro Parent and de Moustier didn't go out in this final, so they're going to start on the 4th row of the grid. Fundamentally, they'll be satisfied with that, but they've got to resolve these issues with this brand new car.
Albert von Turn and Taxis, you can see they're up on the jacks in 7th place. Him and Enzo Ede are in the pit, so they're not going to improve. But who have we still got out on circuit that is looking like they can do something? Tony Verlander, again, average first and second sectors. He's backed off as well, hasn't he? So
yeah, he's back in the pits. The session, effectively, 30 seconds to go, is over. He doesn't really need to protect, although we still see that Ortelli is on track, so he can't totally relax until the checkered flag comes out.
Yep, Ortelli will be through the first sector in a few moments' time. We'll see what he can do. Marc Basseng has done a 31.5 in sector 1, almost exactly matched by his teammate Nicky Pastorelli. This is Marc Basseng under braking for the hairpin. This is his last chance to try and move up from 4th place. Tony Verlander has pitted, so now it's only the 2 Audis and this Al-Inkle Mercedes the two Audis and the two Mercedes are the only four cars out on circuit. Marcus Winkelhock watching on. It looks like it's going to be a 4th position start for them tomorrow, as he's a good chunk of time down on the pole position. So I think this will be a pit stop for Marc Basseng. We're just waiting for Stefan Ortelli. His lap is not good enough either, so I think it's looking like John Watson's bet, Tony Verlander, is going to take pole position. We'll obviously wait until all the cars have come across the line to fully confirm that. Marc Basseng comes into the pits.
But Jack, I have to say, I take no pleasure in being right.
I've never heard you say that before. Nicky Pastorelli still out there. He does a personal best in the 3rd sector, but it's not good enough to move him up. Stefan Ortelli crosses the line to do a 1 minute 26.8, which is nowhere near quick enough, because of course Tony Verlander's time was a 1 minute 26.1. A very, very fast time indeed. And then we can see Nicky Pastorelli, he's backed off too. I think all the cars have taken the checker flag. So tomorrow's qualifying race coming up at 2:15 local time. We'll see the AF Corsa number 3 Ferrari, Tony Verlander and Felipe Salaquada on pole position. Then it's a lockout from 2nd and 3rd places for the WRT Audi. Stefan Ortelli in 2nd, Frank Stippler in 3rd, and we go on board with Stefan Ortelli just cruising back to the pits. It'll be interesting to see whether he's satisfied with that. 3rd place will be Frank Stippler and Oliver Jarvis. 4th for Marc Basseng and Marcus Winkelhock in the 38 Al-Inkle Mercedes. 5th place for the sister AF Corsa car, Enzo Ede and Francesco Castellacci. As the WRT team congratulate each other, they seem pretty satisfied. Nicky Pastorelli and Thomas Jaeger 6th in the other Al-Inkle Mercedes. 7th place for Albert von Turn and Taxis and Thomas Eng. They're going to be fun to watch tomorrow. And 8th place on the grid will be the number 2 McLaren Hexes Racing, Gregoire de Moustier, alongside Alvaro Parent. But Stefan Ortelli didn't quite have enough in his car, in his Audi, in his talent to claim pole position for this one. But what a close fought session it was. Only 0.3 of a second covering the top 3.
Yes, I mean, and then this is what this equivalency formula was designed to be all about. It was to get the cars closely matched in terms of times. Some feel, oh, we're having too much weight. Some have lost something else. But the bottom line is we've got a close grid, and hopefully come tomorrow in the qualifying race we'll have a close race as well. And this is entertainment. We're not talking about the issues of the world. It's entertainment.
Absolutely. Laurent Vanthor we saw there in the garage, looking pretty happy. 2nd on the grid. There he is. High fives all around the WRT team. And that's a tall engineer, isn't it, as they congratulate each other as well. Hopefully we'll be hearing from the top drivers very shortly. I'm sure Haley is down there in the pit lane right now. So von Turn and Taxis in 7th place. So ultimately what we can learn from this is that WRT, the Audi is very strong and the Ferrari is very strong, but some of the others just having some teething troubles, and I don't feel like we saw the true pace from the McLaren.
No, we didn't, and I think it might be a race or two before we get to that stage, because again, you heard the team manager suggesting that we feel that we've got no power, we're not able to use the true potential. And you look at the cars, in particular the Ferrari 458, which has taken pole position, and the McLaren MP412C. They are out and out race cars, but production cars.
Let's hear from poleman Tony Verlander.
Congratulations, Tony. That's quite the start to the weekend for you.
Yeah, it was exciting and excellent. I mean, the car was really good. From Q1 to Q3, I got even more confidence with the car. Philip did a really good job in the Q2, and yeah, looking forward to the race. Don't know exactly what's going to happen in the race. I mean, race pace and everything, but at least for today we are happy.
You certainly got a strong setup with the team and with the car, so the future is looking bright for you all.
Yeah, I mean, I've been with the Amato Ferrari and of course since end of 2006, so it's a long love relationship, so hopefully it goes on another 6-7 years, so I'm very happy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations to Tony Verlander then. He'll be starting the qualifying race tomorrow on pole position. Well, he won't be starting, will he? It'll be his teammate Felipe Salaquada actually starting the car tomorrow. Let's have a look at the classification of that final Q3 session. The Ferrari out front, the two Audis behind, Mercedes, Ferrari, Mercedes, the Lamborghini of Albert von Turn and Taxis and Thomas Eng down in 7th, with the top McLaren GT for Hexis Racing down in 8th position. Not how they would have wanted their afternoon to go at all. Frank Stippler and Oliver Jarvis are going to have fun there in 3rd place, and it's good to see Marcus Winkelhock and Mark Basseng up there in 4th place. The Al Inkel team really struggling in first free practice yesterday, nowhere near the pace that they kind of wanted to be, learning the new Pirelli tyres, made a few setup changes, and now it looks like they're back really on the pace. And you can see that gap, 0.7 of a second back to Basseng and Winkelhock after such a close first few qualifying sessions. It's interesting that Q3 should end up looking like that. So, as I say, an excellent race here at Nogaro, and tomorrow we will have the qualifying race. We will be live on air at 2 o'clock local time, which is 12 o'clock GMT for the 1 hour race. Let's hear from our second place man, Stefan Ortelli. He's there with Haley.
Congratulations, Stefan. Great pace in the Audi, 2, 3, first and second row for the race tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's with Laurent and myself, it's really, really nice. I mean, it could be my son, and he's driving like a rocket already. He did a fantastic job on Q2. You know, I'm very, very proud about him, and he's been adapted so quickly, and the car gives us a good confidence as well. But you know, it's at the end of the day, disqualify with the pressure and the emotion is always related to the experience. And on this point, you know, I've got a lot on you, Lawrence, and you really impressed me. I'm proud to be here, like we are now in first row. And it's first race for him at this level tomorrow in the World GT, and we start from the first row. But with no pressure, he showed us a very good experience today. I'm happy. I love the car also here. I have to say it's been a very good week so far, and we're going to be ready to fight against the Ferraris and the others.
And Hans, what is it like to have a co-driver such as Stefan Ortelli?
It's fantastic. It's perfect. He's learning me everything. I couldn't imagine to have such a good relationship with Stefan. It's a dream team. So.
And it's been fun at this track for you today?
Yeah, I love the track. It's a typical old French track, I would say, but it was really good qualifying. A lot of stress the first time, but I think the first time we drive in the World GT with WRT and Audi, and second place, I think it's not too bad.
Thank you.
Lawrence Van Thorp, very happy here at this circuit. He's going to be even happier in 2 weeks' time when we make our way to Zolder, because he is from Hasselt, the town just outside of Zolder. Is Lawrence Van Thorp, 2009 German Formula 3 Cup champion, second in the Macau Formula 3 Grand Prix in 2010. So a driver with real single-seater talent.
I mean, real quality driver, and looks forward to doing a strong job.
So let's hear from their WRT team, Oliver Jarvis and Frank Stippler.
Yeah. Fantastic times in the Audi. Frank, did you enjoy racing on the track?
Yes, very much. I mean, I did several races at the Nordschleife in the last years, and now I'm back in some international races, so some things are new for me, and third place is, I think, a good award for the first test session and the first qualifying. The team did a good job, and my teammate as well, so I think it's a good basics for the race.
Ollie, it's good to be here at such a professional setup as WRT.
Yeah, fantastic team. I heard some great things about it before I arrived, but they're living up to expectations, and done a great job today, and hopefully we can continue this way for the weekend.
And thoughts on the race tomorrow?
Just have a good start, stay consistent. It's a long race, 1 hour, but you know, as long as we score points throughout the year, hopefully we can fight for the championship.
Thank you guys, well done.
So it's great to see them starting in third place on the grid. A real sense of team spirit we're getting down at Audi.
Yeah, and that's a particularly strong driver pairing, Ollie Jarvis and Frank Stippler. You know, you can imagine those two, they understand what it takes to get a championship under their belts. It's not about necessarily winning it into the first corner and then damaging the car. And just listening to the pair of them, and you know, Oliver Jarvis I know very well from A1 GP days, and he's really grown substantially from his time racing in Germany with Audi and DTM, and now into GT1.
Yep, it's very good to see the Audis performing so strongly as the shutters come down on garage number 2, which is where Parc Fermé is taking place, and post-race scrutineering. We've also got, as well as the GT1 qualifying race tomorrow, we've also got the FIA GT3 European Championship race going on about 4:30 tomorrow afternoon, local time once again. So there's plenty of racing action coming up here over the Easter weekend. And don't forget, it's the championship race and the second GT3 race coming up on Monday, as it is Easter Monday, as is traditional here at the circuit. Nogaro, we're here for the Coupe de Pack, the Easter Cup, which has seen the emergence of many excellent young French drivers. There's the Vita for One BMW team. They're not going to be too dissatisfied with today. It could have been worse, but I think 11th and 12th on the grid, not where their sights are set.
Well, team boss Michael Bartels, I can assure you, will be unhappy with the performance of his two cars right now. Not happy to start too far back in the grid.
Let's hear from Castellacci.
Francesco, what a successful qualifying session that was for you. How is it joining the GT1 World Championship?
Yeah, for now it's amazing, and congratulations really a lot to Enzo, because he really did a really good qualification with the car. He said it was really good, and starting for 5th place on the inside is really good, I think, for this kind of circuit.
And you having fun on this circuit, driving the 458 around here?
Yeah, as I said before, I think the 458 is adapting really good to this kind of circuit, and comparing to the other cars, and we're also looking forward for the two races.
And have you found the Pirelli tyres here?
The Pirelli tyres, comparing to last year's mission, are really good, because there is not much drop off of the tyre, and I will tell you more tomorrow after the race, but I think the car is handling very good for the Pirelli. At the end, they are Italian tyres.
Thank you, Francesco.
Nice bit of patriotism there. As well, let's speak to Enzo.
You've graduated with Francesco from GT3 to the GT1 World Championship and made such an impact. You've got to be happy with today.
Yeah, it's okay. Just I was fastest in Sector 2, so I need to ask myself why it's not possible, where I lose in the 1st and 3rd sector. So I need to study the data now to see where the difference is with Tony. And for the race, I think it will be okay. We will push very hard, and you see the result.
A name like Enzo, it must be special for you to be behind the wheel of a Ferrari.
It's a dream from when I was a small boy, so this is unbelievable for me. It's great.
Great. Thank you, Enzo. Best of luck tomorrow.
Yep, fantastic stuff for Enzo Eid. He was 3rd in FIA GT3 last year, picking up 3 wins, 3rd as well in Belcar, but 2010 was his first season of racing. There's the number 9 Porsche. Maybe expected a little bit more. 9th place on the grid for the number 9 car. As I say, perhaps a little bit more expected from Mike Parisi, the local man.
Well, what's amazing is on Monday or Tuesday of this week, when they were allowed to test on the track, that car, number 9, did a 1 minute 25, middle 1 minute 25 second lap, quicker than anybody else has gone this afternoon in qualification. So there is pace in that Porsche, but where it's gone over the last few days, well, that's a question only the team can give us.
Absolutely. So it is a bit cooler here than it was earlier on. There's the Ford GT. That didn't have a particularly strong time this afternoon. Let's have a look back at the 3 qualifying sessions we've just had. So the circuit, the Nagaro, was here for the Coupe de Pack. The drivers getting ready for the first driving in earnest in the 2012 FIA GT1 World Championship. Marc Basseng watching on as Benjamin Lariche took a little trip through the French countryside.
Yeah, not good to the bottom of that Porsche, and one of those Porsches, in fact, went off yesterday and did a little bit more damage to the underbody of the car than they really would have needed. There was inexperience on the part of the young Chinese driver, Mr. Wei.
Sergei Afanasiev not getting a go, nor did Matteo Cressoni, as neither of those 2 cars qualified. Thomas Enger went out for the 2nd session, which was declared a wet track. Albert von Taxis very happy with his performance. Pressure was on Gregoire de Moustier, and he just about made it through to the 2nd session as Michael Bartels struggled with his car. A nice little bounce on the exit there from Mike Parisi, but it was Thomas Enger who was fastest in that session, just much to the delight of Albert von Taxis. But in the final qualifying session, the sparks were flying as Audi were pushing as hard as possible. Marc Basseng also pushing right to the extremes of the track, but it was the number 3 car of Tony Verlander and Philippe Salaquada that were quickest.
A really clean lap from Tony Verlander. That's why he got the pole position. That's why he's in a competitive car.
So the qualifying race comes up tomorrow at 2 o'clock local time, and we'll see you then.